Kina's 3-drill glasses are crushing a $165 billion industry. A pair of Ray-Ban Wayfarers sitting on a glass shelf inside an optician's shop carries a price tag of $249. The frame, the hinges, the lenses, and the branding on the temple arm together cost somewhere between $5 and $8 to manufacture. That gap between production cost and retail price is not explained by quality, materials, or research. It is explained by ownership. One company makes the glasses, they own the stores that sell them. They run the insurance plan that pays for them. They own the brands you think are competing with each other. That company is Luxottica, and it has held this position for more than 60 years. Roughly 4.4 billion people worldwide need corrective lenses, and a significant share of them have been paying prices set by this single entity. The story begins with an orphan from Milan. Leonardo Del Vecchio was born on May 20, 1935 in Milan. His father died before his birth, and his mother, unable to support all her children, placed him in an orphanage. He was not adopted and did not come from wealth. At 14, he was apprenticed to a tool and die maker, a workshop that cut and shaped metal parts. This training gave him precision skills in metalworking that most people never acquired. In Pontept in 1961, at age 26, Del Vecchio opened a small workshop in Poyagordo, a town in the Italian Dolomites. He began by producing metal components for eyeglass frames, hinges, temples, and nose pads, which he sold to other eyewear manufacturers. Over the following decade, he expanded from making parts to making complete frames, then from producing frames for other brands to launching his own. He named the company Luxottica. Each expansion was calculated, and by the time competitors noticed the pattern, the company had already grown into something far larger than a component supplier. In Eyewear 1990, Del Vecchio listed Luxottica on the New York Stock Exchange rather than in Milan or Rome, reasoning that the United States held the largest capital markets and the largest eyewear demand. He reportedly said, "If you have to sail, it is better to choose the big sea." He used the capital raised from the listing to begin a sustained acquisition campaign. In April 1990, Luxottica acquired Vogue Eyewear. In 1995, it completed a hostile takeover of U.S. Shoe Corporation, a company 5 times Luxottica's size, in order to gain control of LensCrafters. In 2011, it acquired Sunglass Hut, adding more than 3,000 retail locations to its network. In May 1999, it purchased Ray-Ban for $640 million. The Ray-Ban acquisition demonstrated exactly how the company operated once it owned a brand. Before the purchase, a pair of Wayfarers sold for roughly 30 tal or last and was distributed through gas stations and drugstores. After the acquisition, Luxottica withdrew the product from those outlets, placed it exclusively inside Sunglass Hut and LensCrafters, both of which it owned, and repositioned it as a premium item. Within a few years, the same Wayfarers were selling for over 150 oats. Today they sell for over 200 tollers. The product did not change. The lens is the same, the frame is the same, the hinge is the same. The only thing that changed was who owned the brand and what they decided to charge. The clearest demonstration of Luxottica's leverage came through its handling of Oakley. Founded in 1975 by Jim Gennard, who started the business selling handmade motorcycle grips out of his car, Oakley grew into one of the most recognized performance eyewear brands in the world and went public in 1995. In the early 2000s, Oakley entered a pricing dispute with Luxottica. Luxottica responded by removing Oakley products from Sunglass Hut, the largest specialty sunglasses retailer in the country, which it owned. Oakley's stock price collapsed by roughly half. In 2020-2007, with the stock still depressed, Luxottica acquired Oakley for $2.1 billion in cash. The company that controlled the shelf space had cut off a competitor's access to it, watched the resulting stock decline, and then purchased the company at a discount created by its own action. Once the deal closed, Oakley products returned to Sunglass Hut shelves, and prices rose accordingly. After the Oakley acquisition, Luxottica expanded through licensing agreements with major fashion houses, including Prada, Chanel, Versace, Armani, Burberry, Dolce & Gabbana, Ralph Lauren, Tiffany, Michael Kors, Coach, Valentino, and Tory Burch. Under this model, the fashion house licenses its name, Luxottica designs, manufactures, distributes, and retails the product, and the fashion house collects a royalty. The customer paid $350 for a frame that came off the same production line as an $80 pair sitting 2 shelves below it. The only variable was the logo stamped on the temple. In 2018, Luxottica merged with Eyewear, the world's largest ophthalmic lens manufacturer, forming Eyewear Luxottica D. The combined entity controlled frame design, lens manufacturing, and global retail distribution under one structure. It also controlled a fourth layer of the business that most consumers never consider: Eyemed Vision Care, the second largest vision insurance provider in the United States, with 43 million members. But when an insurer, a retailer, and a manufacturer are the same company, the customer never actually interacts with the competitive market at any stage of the purchase. Imagine if Ford owned every car dealership in America, manufactured every car on the road, ran the second largest auto insurance company, and set the prices without any competing manufacturer on the lot. Leonardo Del Vecchio died of pneumonia on June 27, 2022, at San Raffaele Hospital in Segrate, near Milan, at age 87. At the time of his death, his net worth was estimated at $24.1 billion, making him the second richest person in Italy. The company he built continued operating without him, reporting revenue of $26.5 billion for 2024, an increase of roughly 6% from the prior year. The counterweight to this structure sits in a city most people outside China have never heard of. Danyang, located in Jiangsu province, roughly 2 hours from Shanghai by high-speed rail, has a population under 1 million. It is known within the industry as the glasses capital of the world. Danyang produces over 400 million spectacle lenses every single year, 50% of every lens made on the planet. It also produces more than 100 million pairs of frames annually, accounting for roughly a third of China's total frame output. The city hosts more than 1,600 eyewear companies, employs over 50,000 people, and generates approximately $2.8 billion in annual revenue, with exports exceeding $660 million in 2022, up nearly 19% year-on-year. The industry's origins trace to the 1960s when technicians who had trained in lens factories in Shanghai and Suzhou were relocated to the countryside during a period of political upheaval. They brought technical grinding and manufacturing skills with them, and small workshops formed around that knowledge. By the 1980s, a cottage industry had taken shape. Through the Karen-like 1990s and 2000s, local government investment, foreign technology imports, and partnerships with universities in Shanghai and Nanjing pushed manufacturing quality upward. Chinese lens producers began using coating and grinding equipment comparable to that used in Germany and Japan. Industry observers have noted that lenses from Danyang now carry multi-layer optical coatings, blue light filtering, and UV protection at specifications comparable to lenses sold under far more expensive Western brand names. This manufacturing base enabled a wave of direct-to-consumer competitors. Zenni Optical, founded in 2003, sources lenses and frames directly from Chinese manufacturers and sells finished prescription glasses online without operating retail stores or paying licensing fees. A pair of prescription glasses on Zenni starts at $6.95. The company has sold over 50 million pairs. Warby Parker took a comparable approach from the American side, launching in 2010 with prescription glasses priced at 95 times after its founder was quoted $700 for a replacement pair at a traditional optician. Warby Parker expanded to more than each 200 retail locations and went public in each 2021 at a valuation exceeding each $6 billion. The Danyang factory does not care whose logo goes on the temple. It sells lenses to whoever places the order, and its margin is roughly the same, whether the lens ends up inside a $300 frame or a $15 one. A pair of Ray-Ban Wayfarers purchased at Sunglass Hut for $249, and a pair of sunglasses purchased from Zenni for a fraction of that price may share the same manufacturing origin, sometimes the same industrial park, sometimes the same production line. You are not paying $227 for a better lens. You are paying $227 for a logo, a retail experience in a store with flattering lighting, and a monopoly that has been raising prices for 60 years because nobody stopped them. Consumer purchasing behavior has begun shifting accordingly. The share of prescription eyewear purchased online in the United States has grown from under 3% in 2015 to over 15% in 2025, a trend concentrated among younger buyers with less attachment to traditional retail pricing. Each percentage point that moves online represents a transaction that bypasses Luxottica's retail network entirely. The company remains dominant. Its Aereo $26.5 billion in 2024 revenue confirms that, but the pattern echoes disruptions that unfolded in other industries once digital distribution and lower-cost manufacturing converged. The incumbents always think the disruption will stay in the margins. It never does. The eyewear industry now sits at that intersection. A structure built over 6 decades by one company controlling manufacturing, retail, insurance, and competing brand ownership faces a manufacturing base in a single Chinese city, producing half the world's lenses at a fraction of the retail price. It costs that much because one company decided it should, and nobody stopped them until now.